wrestling drama practice was above the locker rooms, and she made a very good point. She said, why are you doing another thing that's above level? And we were originally told that, it would save money, but Jim, the architect, went ahead and took it back to the designers and said, what if we did it like Ellen suggested and kept it down on the lower level? And it actually was slightly cheaper. And so there was opportunity for public input on these things. I mean, that's just one instance. And, we did take ideas from different people when we had these meetings, and we did have more public meetings, even more recent than the 3 years. We had the ones in the gym there. The other ones were mainly in the cafeteria where we toured the schools, but we did have some more recent ones.
Josh, as a member of the community, why do we vote yes?
Well, I can't speak for the school board, but regarding that question, I went to, I think, 3 meetings that we sat in the music room at Norwood High School. I took a tour when they were in session. I took a tour of the grade school and the high school twice. I mean, those were all open to the community, along with people running for school board. A lot of those things were addressed at that time. I think this has been a long process of trying to get the solution, but the main reason, I think, as a community member, is look at the school. There's a lot of issues, safety issues. That's my main concern. I mean, how many people, if they have families going to move into Ord, you go to that school and tour that and see some of these issues, are you going to want your kid to go there? I mean, is that the best thing for him? Now, our staff, our maintenance, our janitorial staff, they've done an excellent job of keeping this building going for a lot of years, and they're still doing it. But you have to ask yourself, the time to invest in them, That's what I'd say.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I think I saw a question back here earlier.
I didn't have a question other than a comment. Paul Markowski.
Sure. Paul Markowski.
I can remember sitting in the meetings with the fire marshal when I was on the school board, and the ADA was discussed several times, and his answer was that it's also complaint driven. So if somebody would go in that school next week with a handicapped child, and that's what you think right away is somebody handicapped in a wheelchair or whatever. He says it can also be a staff member, janitor, anybody that breaks a leg and files a complaint about going upstairs or whatever, and then the ADA would also kick into gear.
Sure. That's good input. I believe we also have a handicapped child in a wheelchair at the grade school currently, so we're going to need to do something to address those needs. Also, I think you saw in the picture earlier, the girls' locker room, you have a total step missing there. That's a liability. A lot of these things are liability concerns too. Okay. You go forward one.
19.5 is the proposed.
19.4. Yeah, you're welcome.
We're going to reduce it by 8. And noted one of the gentlemen said this year. That leads me to believe that in years to come, for whatever reason, this can reappear as a 10 game on top of the 19.
The 10 cents. That's a good question. I guess what Ellen was trying to address too was the reduction of the building fund. We're just currently saying by doing this bond issue, we can get rid of the building fund that we're currently doing. Maybe you guys, you want to answer this, Bill? I can answer it.
We're limited by this legislation that we can only go to $1.05. We cannot exceed that. I don't know if that answers your question, because we cannot exceed $1.05.
There's the lid. I think you saw that state legislation passed $1.10. And that's $1.05.
Yeah. So by making this projection, we can project that for this year. I can't see into the future of what valuations are going to do next year or even the following year. So we have to make our projections on what we know. not what we assumed.
Do you have a projected budget for the next 10, 15 years with this amount?
No. Budgets are made 1 year at a time.
That's a good question. Ellen?
Back on this, Bill, or still on this, so you're, at a recent school board meeting, someone discussed the heating and air conditioning at the grade school. If this proposed bond passes like this, how do you change that? And also, if the campaign that's out there now to collect donations for the bleachers and scoreboard and equipment, if you don't collect enough money to pay for that, how do you intend on paying for that? So how do you intend on paying for both of those and still trying to keep this back sheet the way it is?
If we don't get enough to cover the bleachers and the scoreboard, we don't do it. We will not do that until we have the money donated. It will not come from tax dollars, the bleachers and the scoreboard. As far as the grade school, that's why we're leaving the 2 cents on there, is to build that up. At the end of this year, we should have close to $800,000 in the building fund. If we leave 2 cents of the 10 cents on the building fund, that will get us there eventually. The heating and cooling at the grade school is an issue, but it's not as pressing of an issue as what we've got at the high school.
Okay, we're going to take one more question. In the back on the right side.
How can the 11.4 pay for the bond?
How can, she asked, how can 11.4 cents on the levy pay for the bond?
When we talk about net, the bond will actually be the 19.4, but we're trying to, I guess to make it simple, what your actual tax increase will be a net of the 11.4 cents. So you can, the bond itself will be 19.4, but when you drop the 8 cents on the building fund, it is a net of 11.4. So the bond will still be paid just like it normally would be. We're trying to show you what the actual net tax increase will be.
One more question right back there.
What is the academic standing of Fort Senior High School statewide?
Question. Sure. The question was, what is the current academic standing of Ward High School statewide? Teacher, principal, superintendent.
I guess I can speak to that. Currently, our ACT test scores this past year were just above, right at the state average. Our writing test scores this past year, we had over 96% of our students were proficient. The state is now going to some state tests as far as reading and math are concerned. I'm amazed at what our teachers are able to do, giving the learning environment, the classroom space that they have. Our building is set up in 1928 for direct instruction. And learning, just like many things, have changed how children learn. And that's what's important to realize at this point.
What is the state standard?
Pardon me, ma'am?
What is the state standard? How does it rank?
I guess you can look at.
What was the question real quick so everybody can hear?
The question is, what is our states, where do we stand or rank in the state? And ma'am, I guess the state doesn't have specifically a ranking per se, but if you would like, you can get on the